to you in today's session. Dear students, in today's class, I am going to discuss about story writing that covers the writing section of our curriculum, and even at times you are asked in the examination. Okay, so our topic today is writing story. How can we write a story? What are the key elements that are the topics today? Okay, let's start here. Dear students, what is a story? What story is that, although the term is very familiar to us, we all have heard the stories. Yeah, your grandparents have told you many stories. I'm sure your parents also have told stories to you, and your friends shared stories with you, and you also sometimes might have shared your stories with your friends too. Exactly, a story is a piece of prose or fiction. It is an account of imaginary or real people. Sometimes a story may cover the real people too. And to say truly, everybody in the world has his or her own story. You also have your own story. I also have my own story. Only the matter is that whether we give our story the real shape or structure or not. That is only the difference. Hmm? If you write your experience and give them the structure or shape of the story or not. That is important thing. And before starting this session, I would like to suggest you that for all sorts of literary works, we need to involve ourselves in the imagination. We should have some perception, imagination. It means that how you perceive the world. There are different ways of taking an event, considering an event, understanding an event. So, what is your perception towards certain events, certain accidents, certain happenings that are going around the world, that are the basic things. So, remember, without imagination, almost no creativity is possible. So, imagination is the prime factor. You should involve yourself. You have to dream first. So then when you convert your dream into the writing, that can be a story, and that is the topic we are going to discuss here. Dear students, let's see what is a story. That is a separate part, and what makes a writing a story, that is important thing. All sorts of writing do not make a story. Yeah, so what makes a story real story? What are the characteristic features? Hmm? What are the elements that involve there? That is important thing. And we are going to talk about some major elements of the story here first. Before starting writing a story, we are going to talk about some major elements of the story first. So the first element I have said there is the characters. Second is setting, then after point of view and plot. These are the major elements of a story that we are going to discuss here. Okay, let's start from character. Okay, you can see the pictures here. Exactly, dear students, while writing story, we will be describing some events, some circumstances, some actions are to be performed there. And your first job is to determine what are the actions going to be done, going to be performed, what actions you are going to be going to describe. According to the action, you have to determine the character. That means who are going to perform that action. Certainly, you involve some dialogues, communications, conversations, so many things there. And who are going to speak those dialogues? Through whom you are going to perform the action. That is the determination of character. It is very important that the character you have selected should fit to the action that are going to be performed. So, a character is a person, an animal, being, creature, that the characters you have determined, they are going to involve in the activities that you are going to describe, discuss, perform there. So selection of character is very important. Why I am giving emphasis to characters is that suppose if the activities you are going to discuss is about agriculture, certainly the agricultural people, farmers should be the character. Yeah. Suppose if you are going to talk about your content is related to the royal issues, politics, certainly the character should be the politicians. If you are going to discuss about some games events, certainly the character should be the players. So what the actions and event you are going to talk about, think about the actions and event and determine or select the character according to it. Okay, and the second is the setting. The setting here, I mean, it's the initial part that gives the information of where and when. Where is the action going to be taken place? And when is the action going to be taken place? Where the major key here, where and when. Yeah, that covers the setting. Setting is mainly the main backdrop or a mood that sets the main backdrop and the mood for a story. And the major settings might include the time, weather, geographical locations. So setting also important in the sense that the actions have some relations with the setting. Suppose if the students and teachers are the characters, you are talking about some sports activities of the school level, then the setting should be school, the club, the church, some mountainous area where that the action and setting should also match with each other. Suppose if you are giving a scene of beach and you want to give the setting of classroom, it is not possible. So who the character are and what the action is, that should fit with the setting, the place and time. That makes the reader feel real. Okay. So let's move. Another thing is the plot, point of view. Dear students, it is very much important thing that especially point of view, your perception, view about the actions and characters. So how it is determined, especially point of view means the position of the narrator in relation to the story. Where do you like to keep yourself? Look at these two pictures. Look at these two pictures. Which one you like? Where do you like to keep yourself? The first picture, that is the picture of stage, and the second picture is the picture of audiences. So I mean to say here is that where do you like to keep yourself? You like to take active participation in the activities and the events, or you like to be the audience. Okay, that is your choice. If you like to involve yourself as an active participant, then you yourself are the character. The narrator is also the character of the story. In such a case, you are on the stage and you describe everything else. Yeah, it means you use first person narrative, I, while describing the events. The main character of your story is I, because you are on the stage, you are one of the characters. And the second person narrative, that is not much common. If you like the readers being one of the characters, you like to interact with the readers, you set the second person uh, you as your narratives. That means it is not common. Therefore, the second picture, that is what that shows you are the observer of the events. You are not the participants. You have observed all the activities what have been done there, and is the perspective of an observer. You describe the events and characters. There are also different types, that is called third person narratives. He, she, it is very commonly used point of view. First person point of view, I, we, the characters are. Second person you, that is not commonly used, so I do not recommend you to use this. Third person narrative, uh, your characters will be he, she, Ram, Shyam, somebody else there. You describe, you are not you are not involved in the activities yourself, you are the observer, you know the characters. Hmm? And there are also some more about it. Let's see this figure, it makes you more clear about the point of view. Who tells the story? You or somebody else? Yeah. So it says that first person narrative, third person narrative. Second person is not shown here in the figure. I already told you it is not common. Therefore, how do you like to present? How do you like to present the events and characters? That is up to you. My recommendation for you is to use the third person narrative, he, she, or some other characters. And after this, the most important thing has come. Let's move forward. Dear students, look at this diagram. This is the most important part of your story. Okay, this resembles the plot diagram. How to begin the story and how to end the story. The whole body of the story lies here. So look at the picture first. In the first best label here, you can see the exposition. Exposition means the beginning of the story where the characters and settings are introduced. Okay, exposition here at this level, this covers the first paragraph of your story. In this paragraph, you have to introduce who the characters are. You introduce the main characters. You set the main problem. What is the problem there? The setting of the problem. Second thing, third thing, where and when the action took place. So these things, characters, settings, and problem. These three things make a paragraph. That is what we call the exposition. There you introduce the problem, introduce the character, introduce the settings. Okay, from where the story, the events begins. Then after, the other part, from exposition to climax, there are several ups and downs. That shows the obstacles. You have the problem, you have set the problem in the first paragraph. Now the hero problem in the first paragraph. Now the hero, what we call the protagonist. The protagonist has to go across difficulties, ups and downs, towards the climax. It means to say that there is the conflict. Conflict can be of several types. Number one, characters versus characters. It means men versus men. The conflict, external conflict and internal conflict. If there is conflict within the characters themselves, that is internal conflict. And if the conflict is arised by some external force like natural forces, that is external, not that the problem is not created by the characters themselves, that is some outer force created the problem, that is external conflict. Mostly when using the conflict, there are several types of conflicts: men versus men, character versus character. It means that there are two opposing forces within the same story. One becomes protagonist, and the other character, somebody, becomes the antagonist. That are opposite sides, and that creates the problem. Another is man versus society. When the main character has some ideal ideas, philosophy, and that does not suit or match the other people living in the society, and he becomes alone and has to face with the society. Another sort can be the man versus animal. When moving ahead in course to achieve something else, the hero, the protagonist, has to face on the way some dangerous animals, yeah, the attack of the animals, such may happen. And another sort is that sometimes the character versus self, the character within himself suffers from the problem. It means he cannot decide what to do, what not to do, what is good, what is bad. At that time, emotionally and personally, he suffers himself within himself. No other force disturb him. And like this, there are other several barriers that are the conflict. And when the conflict is overcome, he wins, he gets success. Sometimes he falls down, goes up, falls down. That is ups and down he bears. He travels a very difficult way and reaches to the climax. That is the almost the ending part. The problem is almost solved. When the problem is solved, there is the way of solving the problem. Either that can be the fight, as you see in the films. That can be some sort of dialogue, through the dialogues. And sometimes that can be settled by the negotiations or other ways. Anyway, the events taking in this section, this after facing all these ups and downs, the character, the hero that reaches to the climax. That is what the problem is settled. And just after settling the problem, there is the falling part. That now the readers set their mind, yes, almost finished. That is what we call give the resolution. During resolution, what we give the justice. Either your story may have happy ending or sad ending, that is up to you. But at least as a writer, we have to provide justice to the good and punishment to the evil. That is our moral. Isn't that? As a writer, so giving the justice to the characters. So that is settled in this part. And finally gives the moral. That is what we call resolutions. And what we find here is that story has mainly three parts here. The exposition, then after conflict, reaching to the climax, then the falling to the resolution. So for your example, I have brought an example of a short story, the major events. This is the key for you too. So let's discuss about this story here, and that is kept in the figure, exactly the previous figure. The exposition, rising action, and resolution. The same thing has been described here. So let me read the story. ones, the major points, the key events are kept here. Okay, so the story is about Cinderella. Yes, I have adapted it from somewhere in the internet. The plot diagram is shown here. What in the exposition, what can you see? Cinderella wanted to go to the ball, but her stepmother would not allow her to go. So her fairy godmother comes up to help her. This is what here the writer has introduced the character, that is Cinderella, stepmother, yeah, and the setting is also given here, that is ball, yeah. So this is the exposition, yeah, characters and setting is given here. Now it is the time for the events. What are the events? The first event, Cinderella does not have a dress to wear to the ball, that is the problem introduced. And look at the third point, that is the stepsisters go to the ball and she could not get chance. And look at the fourth point, a fairy uh, godmother appears and provides Cinderella with the clothes, a cause and footman. Her problem is solved for the first time. Yeah, she had not got chance to go to the ball because of the dress, but her problem is solved here. Yeah, so Cinderella goes to the ball, rising the action. Yeah. Then after Cinderella dances with the prince, but leaves hurriedly at midnight, losing her slipper. Another problem. She lost her slippers. Another problem came there. And come to the seventh point, what it says. The prince says he will marry the woman whom the slippers fit. So the prince wanted to marry the girl uh, to whom the slippers which was left by Cinderella there when she left hurriedly left there. So again, this way the story goes up, the action rises up, and finally look at the eighth point, that is the stepsisters try to force their feet to the slipper, it fits Cinderella. Right, the problem is. Right. So, what does it mean? These are the ways. First, while writing a story, you make the points, the events. What happened, what happened, what happened. One, two, three, four. That makes the skeleton of your story. And now fill up with the flesh and skin. All the other things. This is the main theme of the story. The main events are carried out here. And what is your job now more? That is adding flesh, decorating it, giving some flavor, like mixing this and that things. So finally goes now the following action. Now Cinderella and the prince marry, yeah, and then after the stepsisters and stepmother live at the palace with Cinderella. That is the following of the action. The problem already finished, and then after they lived happily. That is the resolution. And these pictures generally shows the layout of the story, exposition, hindrance, problem, and climax to the fall to the resolution. And this is what we give the shape of the story. And now, from examination point of view, I like to add some tips to you. Dear students, you can make the story. So, while writing a story, uh, you should give the topic and moral as well. And while giving topic, what could be the good topic? The selection of topic you can determine after preparing writing whole story. You can determine the topic. You do not need to write the topic at the beginning. But my suggestion is that normally the main characters of the story can be the topic. The main theme of the story, The main message of the story can be the topic. The main event of the story also can be the topic. The characters involving vital role, playing vital role, can also be the topic of the story. That is up to you. But while writing the topic of the story, look at these. Here given foolish farmer, golden egg, the wise king, the woodcutters, and an axe. Notice that the content words are capitalized. They begin with the capital letters, and the function words are in the lowercase small letters. For example, there you can see and a. Yeah. So do not make mistake while writing the topic. And then after, another thing is that which tense should we use while writing stories. Generally my recommendation for the students is to use past tense, but does that means you cannot use other tense? No, that is not. You can use any other tense, uh, but not the future. You can use present tense too as your comfort, but whenever you begin writing from present tense, you continue the present tense only. And sometimes we switch the tense according to the context, but most of the part of your story that covers present tense. If you start writing in the past tense, most of the part that covers uh, past tense. Sometimes you may switch the tense to past perfect according to the events and actions performed. That is different thing. And the dialogue, while writing dialogue, I noticed many students they write the dialogues in the direct speech, and their punctuation is wrong. They do not punctuate it properly. Here are two examples. You can write the dialogues, the direct speech, in these two ways. But notice that the farmer said there is comma, and there is the quote marks, inverted comma. We are facing many challenges now. Full stop, again the quote lock. Yeah. And the same statement can be said in the another way. We are facing many challenges now. There is comma, and said the farmer, yes, is small. Notice this. So while writing a story, we certainly have to insert some conversations, the talk, yeah, giving the direct quotes. Your punctuation should be properly followed, the grammar. And another thing is that should we use only the direct speech? No, that is not. There should be a mix up. You should give it in the indirect speech too. But while writing the sentences in indirect speech, don't forget to put them in the past perfect tense if you are describing the event in past tense. And if you are going to do, you are describing the events in present tense, you have to write the indirect speech into past tense, the switching of the tense that you must take care. And another is that the length and organization. What is the first paragraph? I already told you that sets stating characters and problem. What is that we talked about? That is a paragraph, the introduction part. Yeah, exposition. And second paragraph, whenever there is the change of setting, where is there is change of events, you have to change the paragraph. Okay, that makes. And remember that the first sentence of your paragraphs works as the topic sentence. For your comfort, I recommend you, I suggest you that remember, whenever you are a clever crow is the topic of your story. Suppose the whole story talks about clever crow. Similar to that, whenever you write a first sentence, that is the topic of that paragraph. That the first sentence of the paragraph serves as the topic of your paragraph. So explain that. And when the scene or setting is changed, when the time is changed, when the event is changed, change the paragraph. And how long should you write? Generally, this question carries 6 marks. Yeah, so 4 to 5 paragraphs that will be suitable for you. That is my recommendation. Especially the length, that depends upon your creativity, but that is what we expect from students. And then finally, uh, this is what we come to the end of our class. This is a homework for your practice, and whatever we have discussed here, that are just the keys for you. Until and unless you do not practice it in the real life, you will not be successful. Practice makes a man perfect. Yeah. So from today, list out the events and think about them and write down the major events, add flesh to them. Then after that becomes story, follow the instructions, determine the characters, plot, then after resolution. So this is what I tried my best to make some discussion about the stories, and this is a question for your practice. Thank you.